Hello, this is question 6 from the 2009 MAT. So this is the logic question that they always put as question 6. Alice, Bob and Charlie make the following statements. So A, B is lying, B, C is lying, C, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, who is telling the truth? Who is lying? Explain your answer, which is always the annoying part of it all. So, right, so they're just either telling the truth or lying, which makes things easier. Well, Charlie is obviously telling the truth. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So we can start off with that. So we can say C is true. So that's a starter, which means so B is saying that C is lying. So C is true. So, okay, therefore Charlie telling truth. Then we can say, therefore, Bob is lying. Therefore, Alice is telling the truth. Right, so they haven't started off with a particularly difficult one, but it's often the way with the first part of the question, just to get us warmed up. Right, next part then. A, B, and C make the following statements. Right, what are the possible numbers of people telling the truth? Explain your answer, suggesting we've got some kind of ambiguity in all of this. So what have we got? So Alice is saying that Bob is telling the truth. Bob is saying that Alice is telling the truth. So A and B are, well, indistinguishable, really. And then we've got Charlie saying that Alice is lying. Right, okay, so we're going to need to go through... Oh, actually, we've got a contradiction there straight away, haven't we? I was going to say we have to go through permutations. We'll probably get onto that in a moment. But Bob is saying that Alice is telling the truth, and Charlie is saying that Alice is lying. So we can say that B and C, so this is for the second part, B and C contradict. So therefore we can say that we can't have, therefore, not all true and not all false as well. So that's a start. So we must have one or two of them are the only possibilities that we got left on this. So say we had then, so if A is true, let's go with that. So Bob is telling the truth is what we'd have there. Then we'd say then B is true, which is Alice telling the truth. So that works. That's fine. And then we'd be saying that C, Alice is lying. So that would be C is false. So that would be, all in all, that we'd have two of them are telling the truth. Two telling the truth. And that does work. And also with this, we've got no contradiction at all. There's no failure of the whole thing. So we've got no contradiction there. What if we had that if A is false, then we'd be saying that Bob is telling the truth. So that would be Alice is lying about Bob telling the truth. So Bob would be lying. And if Bob is a liar by saying that Alice tells the truth, then that also fits. Then no, Bob is lying by saying that Alice tells the truth. Yeah, that would fit. And then we're saying that Charlie is saying that Alice is lying. So C is true. So that means we've got one telling the truth. So we can't actually tell the difference between those. Both of those are consistent. Both options are possible. So we've got one or two people telling the truth. Okay, so that's slightly different to the ones we'd had in the previous couple of years, where it's not just about finding contradictions, we're finding different possible consistent sets. Right, now they make the following statements. Right, this is getting much more involved. Who is telling the truth and who is lying on this occasion? So Alice is saying that both of the others are lying. Bob's saying Alice is telling the truth, or Charlie is lying, or both. And Charlie is saying that both of them are telling the truth. Right, so, well, A and C clearly contradict here because they can't both be telling the truth. because they are contradicting about Bob. Alice is saying that Bob is lying. Charlie is saying that Bob is telling the truth. So we can start off with that. A and C, C, not B, can't both be telling the truth because they contradict about B. So that's a good start. So now we can, well, let's try some options, I suppose. Contradict on B. So if A is telling the truth, then we've got that B and C are false, so they both have to be lying. So let's go, well, B's a bit more involved, so let's go with C. So that'd be saying that Alice and Bob are both telling the truth, and that would be a lie. So, well, Alice is telling the truth. So C would have to be saying, C implies, actually, let's get rid of that. Therefore, C implies that B is lying. So what is B saying? In the case of B, Alice is telling the truth, which is not the case, or, oh no, which is the case. Oh, except this is lying. Alice is telling the truth, or Charlie is lying, or both. Right, so Alice is telling the truth. So that contradicts then. Contradiction. So we can't have that A is telling the truth. Therefore, so yeah, this is a contradiction because it's saying that, well, Alice is telling the truth because A is telling the truth. So therefore, we have that A is lying. And if A is lying, then C must also be lying as well, because C is saying that both A and B are telling the truth. So C is lying. Then what have we got then for B? So B is saying that Alice is telling the truth. Well, that's not true. Or Charlie is lying, which is true, or both. Therefore, B telling the truth. So who is telling the truth and who is lying? There we go. I've already said it all out. Right, okay, that was considerably easier, I think, than the previous logic questions that they had in the earlier papers. But still, there's still quite a lot to set out. These are still fairly meaty questions. But at least we know what we're getting into in these question 6s.